Well,
here we are. Here we are on stage.
Great to be back.
Chico, you not had it. I recommend it very highly. Is it really Topo Chico? Okay, stay sure. Because if you don't have Topo Chico, it's a spiritual journey.
So, all right, let's get started. So, Josh, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming by today. So, what I want to do, normally I first start today and say, tell a little bit about your company, but I want to go a different direction first. I want you to actually give a little bit of your history, what you've done before you joined Quad. You've got a really interesting background in marketing, and I think that this is going to be a story of, again, a change, and a change that is very similar to a company that a lot of people know here, and a lot of companies people are big fans about here. So let's first start with your history, what you were doing before you joined Quad.
Sure. I was the president and publisher for Ad Age for 5 years. Prior to joining Quad, it was a sort of living at the center of the marketing universe for a moment, giving me the opportunity to sort of have a chance to know what it was that was important for marketers to explore and exploit and support. And I started off my career just as a little sideline in film and TV. And so I had a wide and varied sort of history, multiple different sections that allows me to sort of get into, I think, I'd argue that age, the center of the universe of what marketing is about. And to join Quad, how I got to this journey, it was I was given a lot of wonderful opportunities with a lot of terrific brands. The truth is, Quad is in a spot where they've been 45 years in manufacturing, which was at they send 10% of your mail. Everything that you receive basically is basically not everything. 10% is printed at Quad at one of the facilities that we have. And they've recently been in an acquisition spree of buying multiple companies the last 10 years, about 5 or 6 agencies, about 10 production companies that allowed them to get to the next level, which is what I'm calling the full marketing experience, which is from basically the beginning of data all the way down to understanding the brand idea into the manufacturing of the concept and getting it out in public. So that journey, that is a bigger journey for an Amazon or a Facebook or a Twitter. They don't need as much marketing evolution. And what I've done in my history is always moving brands from where they've been or where they've historically sort of been rooted. I was Matt Weisbecker, I see in the back, as a friend of mine from NBC Universal. Matt and I were involved in a journey from making NBC non-digital to digital. And Quad is in a similar journey of figuring out how to get from a manufacturing company to the full marketing experience, which I'm super excited to do with that.
So there's a lot to unravel in there.
Okay, Marc, sorry, a lot there.
And you're normally the guy who's doing the interviewing on stage, so it's great to see you on the other side of the mic.
I don't like this part, I'll admit to you. I prefer to be asking questions.
Well, when you think about that journey you're going through, I asked you a question about some of your favorite brands. And we pull it back a level and think, what are some of the favorite brands that you have and that you can either relate to from a human standpoint? Actually, I want to ask people in the audience, who wants to volunteer on brands that really resonates with them, that they feel very strongly and passionate about? Who can share something?
Brand you love.
It's not a trick question.
Not a trick question. Some brand you love.
And I'll share one with you.
Should we pick somebody?
Yeah, force it. Force the mic and say them. Nike.
Samsung.
Samsung.
Tom
Ford.
Apple. I was waiting for Apple.
Tom Ford.
So Nike, Tom Ford, Apple. So the amazing thing. Samsung. It's amazing is all these brands, for some reason, for whatever specific and personal reason, mean a lot to each of you. For me, Patagonia is one of those brands.
Because you run forever.
Because I'm some competitive jogger, I like to call myself.
He runs 100-mile ultra marathons. So I
like Patagonia, and I like what they stand for from a social reason as well. And their stuff's really touched me more. How about for you? You can really relate to.
So I've been during the pandemic, I've started to become a lover of 2 or 3 brands, but mostly during the beginning of the pandemic, Nike, to call it out, was so great with the split screen campaign. I was like, oh, it's so genius. And the reason why I love this so much is because they hooked into that moment of cultural, and intention. They're like, this is what everyone's feeling right now. How do we help our brand express itself during this moment? So I just love what they were doing. Of course, there was support of Colin Kaepernick during Black Lives Matter. That was so thankful, right? It's fabulous work. And important message they wanted to say. And I firmly believe that in that company for doing it, and every company for doing what they're doing. Tonal also got me because I was like,
So can you explain what tonal is?
sorry, Tonal. I'm sorry. Is that, no one knows what Tonal is? Me? Is this me? Okay, great. So Tonal is this wall-based exercise equipment that has the basically it's like the mirror but with weights. So it has about up to 200 pounds. Sorry, it's a little spot for Tonal. You should hold out there. Anyway, it has weights that alter. It changes based on your success of working out. So however long you're working out, it'll actually slowly incrementally add more weight on. So I was doing some investigation. What workout equipment should I get for my house? This became an obvious message only because they added Kobe Bryant, they added Serena Williams, and they added all the people that were like, it made sense to me, and they kept delicately pushing me with their drip campaign. And I was like, you guys should buy this. And so I put I don't always buy the brands that I love, but I just happen to be a Nike Tonal supporter.
And with Tonal, you mentioned there's something about it specifically that was really interesting in terms of how they adjust the weight to you. So from a data standpoint, you mentioned there's another layer of depth.
Yeah. So so as I'm working out, which I'm a weakling, so I have the benefit of not being kind of a nice growth curve, So starting out, it was like start off with here's 8 pounds. How do you do this? And then slowly, incrementally, they're adding weight on so you can handle more as you're doing your workout. The best part about that is I was starting to think, because I'm sitting there as a marketer thinking, how do they use this data? If you have hundreds of thousands of people all doing the same workout, they start to really understand all the different mechanisms that they can capture. There's a camera, there's a thing. I hope it's not recording you suffering, but it might be. The point is that data then becomes a valuable mechanism for them to recognize who and how they should be communicating with people externally when they're talking about their products. And one of the things that moved me from zero to something, or like from zero to purchase, was like, well, when I hold a barbell and I lift it up and crunch it, I can never change the weight of it while I'm holding it. That's actually physically impossible. So that one major differentiator was like, well, actually, it can change as you're doing the workout. So they came up with all these different ways to market using great little framing. One's called Smart Flex, one called chains, and it's all these different ways to feel like, oh, that's a smart way to market your differentiator. But really, what it is just a workout machine. The point is, it's fabulous and it's small and it's a great product, and I just love their brand and how they're working.
So they take these individual data points on each of their users, and then they can make something that's stronger for the whole, is what you're saying. Which
yes, and to the point of a story, it seems to be like the those who have the most data will win. And back to Quad, we have a extraordinary 110 million households that we mail to every day. So the capacity for us to communicate and know how people are responding to the information we're giving them is extraordinarily valuable. One of the things that we're incubating is this concept of the ability for you to receive. If your mailbox was just a receptacle, at this point I'll acquiesce to call it more spam, if we're going to use a more digital term. Is there a way for you to expose to Quad what you really, really want, like the Spice Girls? But the point is, if you go from my mailbox has, effectively not all the mail that I want, but this other communication vehicle allows me to know exactly what I want, and that data you can only do that if you give us the data of what you want. And I just was signing up for something last night, Apple News, and it went through the whole protocol of like, what things do you want to read about? Similarly, Quad is incubating this idea that allows you to communicate with us and tell us what things you actually want to receive mail about. And so it differentiates like a Gmail, like there's the focused mailbox that gives you like the stuff you want to read, and there's everything else. Quad is innovating the idea of sending you the things that would be really valuable for you to receive and for you to communicate, for you to receive. So from a data perspective, whoever has the best data wins. I think the largest manufacturers who have that data already, and then we just need to start to carefully and selectively use it to help support the customers that we're serving.
So this idea of personalization in a medium that's been around for a while, you go to your consumers or the end users and say, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And then you communicate stuff that you really, really want. There you go. So this is a medium that's been around for a while, but give me an example of another company that's been through a transition that's gone from this, I mean, let's really call it a very analog business to a much more digital, kind of forward-thinking business. It's hard to, you mentioned a couple of brands. What's a brand that other people here might be able to relate to or to resonate with them that's gone through something kind of similar?
There's so many, so I don't know, Netflix, that's one that my mind. I was a big fan of Netflix early days, so I would get DVDs sent to me. I don't know, it was 3 months, that it was, and I was like, "This is the best thing ever!" And I loved getting the movies. But the point is, they didn't have any recognition. Netflix didn't have any recognition of the of what, in fact, people were watching. They knew how long they would keep it. I bet you they were measuring that time, like some people keep it longer, maybe watch it once or twice, or maybe they never watched it. One of those weird, it's kind of weirder. Definitely winning the point. Anyway, the point is, Netflix, of course, watching the demise of Blockbuster, saw that they were not actually in the business of providing people movies. They were just in time entertainment business. And Blockbuster thought they were a retail movie guy. And they weren't. They were just in time entertainment. And when Redbox and Netflix came in with a different solution, it was an immediate switch, almost overnight, unfortunately, for Blockbuster. And that data now that Netflix captures, you all probably well know, with Tiger King, it's switched everyone into this logic of how much more they're creating content for the general audience. And that data, I mean, I don't think of it as an overwhelmingly large insight, what I'm offering them, but when you think about how long now mind you, I'm now starting to spite watch the end of movies. I can think it's going to be, watch it anyway. But sometimes I do stop in the middle. And I'm assuming they get that insight, like, oh, he didn't like this, or his family didn't like this. But now they've sort of segmented my whole family into each person, as well as my mother-in-law and my mother, who will share my Netflix account, God bless. But the point is that data is they're using to figure out what movies they should go produce next year with a $13 billion budget for movie production. So I'm a tremendous fan of that transition that Netflix has made. Obviously, it's successful. I think Quad is in the driver's seat to figure out from an integrated print manufacturing company into a data-based, data insight-led conversation about what, in fact, people want to receive and what marketing is actually going to help them forward.
So why does direct mail matter? Why does print matter? If we think about the actual, something that is printed and you can have help, why does that matter? Because people have, for the last 20 years been investing in digital, and we hear about a lot of people on stage and panels about digital investing. So why does the printed items still make a difference?
Yeah, I love this question because I actually have we did some research internally. There's this thing called the endowment effect. I didn't know it, but I kind of know it as you hear it. And when you walk into a store and you touch a sweater, that sweater has a much higher propensity for you to purchase than the sweater you didn't touch. There's something about that tangible facet, that endowment effect. Because you touched it, it means something more to you. So the same thing with, imagine like your average every day, how much mail do you get in your mailbox every day? I'm guessing 10 or 12 pieces a day.
Several pieces a day,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So the process is most people walk from their mailbox. As they're walking to their recycle bin, they're shifting. Like, is this a keep? Is it a keep? My wife is reading this, whatever. So there's that process. The point is that endowment effect of when you're touching that MX gift card sign up or MX card, like, oh, this is a nice envelope. There's something about it that makes you want to engage with more deeply than the ad unit that you see on the screen, which is in like it goes away. It's invisible. I can't even get it back. Like, don't go back. Oh, ad unit. Whoops, lost it. So the point is that physical presence that you have. There's the endowment effect. There's the fact that it's a permanent thing. It's in your house. We're working on this framing of a resident media, like a front door media that is like an outdoor media. There's a front door media concept. Why would we have media that lives on envelopes or on content or on catalogs that allows you to have a different message be sent? So the value of being received and touched, I think, is extraordinarily more important. And also, now that we're seeing this, I don't know if you've noticed for your brands, but for my brand, the cost of doing ads has risen dramatically, but the response has not gone up as in concert. So what we're finding is, specifically with direct mail, is in fact direct mail response is becoming stronger. Any catalogs and magazines that are going out are becoming better, and also the fact that people are engaging with it because of the popularity of the QR code. We partner with a company called Flowcode. It allows us to have personalized information about each person who sees any engages with the Flowcode, so we have that data. So the point is, as Quad is changing, we're not only changing the way we're doing it, we're also communicating to people in their houses, and that is a very different medium, which is why I love it. I also love, as I suggested, evolving brands that have been successful in one category, move into another category.
So it's, you mentioned the idea of being able to now hold see print. Who here still gets a magazine subscription, an actual magazine sent to their house? So we've got a couple of people. Which magazine do you receive? Entrepreneur Magazine.
Oh, I love that one. That's the one.
We have one big fan plus one for Entrepreneur. Who else?
Vanity Fair.
Vanity Fair. Anyone else? Outside. Interesting. Okay. So, and none of these you can get digitally, right? You get all of them digitally. Why? Why do you get Entrepreneur, for example, as an actual piece of print?
I think to Josh's point, there's a level of sustainability when it's a physical touch, right? So like I'll do my Entrepreneur subscription because I can read through it, I can come back to it. It's digital. If I miss it, it just goes, right? Because I know that there's a constant investment coming at you all the time.
Yeah. It's so true. When I was at the benefit of Ad Age, people would tell me I kept the one Ad Age I was in. They kept it because it's a permanent object. When you're on an article on a website, that can be done. Somebody take it down. No one can ever take that content with you. So I find that the magazine, particularly, there's a real value, and also there's an escape that happens as you're flipping through it. And catalog as well. There's this moment where I'm like, oh, do I see myself in this page? Or do I see myself in this, this outdoor, hike? I think all those things are. There's a moment that digital offers you that is of course valuable. It's very functional, transactional. When you're searching for Google, you're saying, what's the best projector that should use for my house? I'm looking for a thing. But if you're perusing like we used to peruse the sharper image, like, oh, maybe I would love a big massage chair. And you kind of imagine yourself in that moment. I think that's what that medium does. I think. I could be wrong.
What was an early magazine you read as a kid? I'll tell you for me. I was a little skater as a kid, so I read Thrasher magazine. And it's like those pages were so cornered and earmarks, and I was like, oh, I got to be able to learn that trick or whatever it was. What was the one?
Mine, it's super geeky, but it's big surprise. Popular Science was my magazine. I loved that magazine. I would always read it cover to cover. And when I was like 22, just after being in LA, I wrote a letter to the editor of Popular Science asking for a job. Wrote me a letter back saying, thank you so much for your, you should be a journalist. I'm like, what was it? I have a film degree. And then it's about 20 years later, I met him. And I was like, we don't know, but I know you. He's like, what did I do? I was like, well, I wrote you a letter. You wrote me back. He's like, was it nice? He was like, yeah, it was nice. It didn't give me a job, but I love Popular Science because it always has that first 3 pages of the magazine is what's hot section. And that what's hot was always like, because I was a gadget geek. I loved new tech, and I loved that magazine for that particular reason.
We have so much in common because when I wanted to be a pro skateboarder, they also told me you should be a journalist. So I have that with you.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then the elephant in the room, obviously, for print is, trees, right?
Absolutely.
And you said you are responsible for sending, this is kind of like one of those, it's a hard question. You send 10% of mail in the United States.
Yes.
So that's a lot of paper.
It is.
All right. So what are you doing about sustainability? What are you doing to offset the fact that there is so much waste in that?
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly an issue for the industry. Since 1971, because we were a startup, Quad was invented by this lovely gentleman who is my boss's father, Harry Grabowski, and he came up with this idea of having a great printer that was solving basically clients' needs locally, out of Milwaukee. And so they started scrappy. So they had to recycle and reduce and reuse in 71. So it's always been part of the culture of what Quad does. So we always had a very high sort of threshold for that. And then, from that evolution, it became part of our culture to continue to do that in many ways as possible. One of the pieces that we're really focused on with beyond our ESG report and a whole tree replanting infrastructure is making certain that we're not only doing it for our own brand, but other brands are coming to us and asking us how can they become their brand become more sustainable. And so we are, Paul Nowak is running our sustainability practice, and he's speaking next week with a brand, a very, very large pharmaceutical store. You could guess, I'm guessing at this point, the largest, and they've asked for a physical aisle that would be their sustainability aisle. But they're looking to quad because there's a whole in-store, business line that just does all in-store marketing. And we're going to figure out how to do their sustainability in place. So many brands are coming to Quad because we've been so focused on sustainability because it's been in our core for forever that other brands are looking to us to solve that for them as well. One more thing with the concept of the narrowing of get the mail that we want concept that we're working on and incubating, where it'll allow us as a partner to say to your brand, here of the carpet bombing of every single house as one option, expensive, but does do the job. It's very effective. Why don't we send it to the 12 million houses that actually could use it? And that right there is a sustainability story as well. So all of these things.
How are you personalizing that though? So you mentioned that the more targeted marketing, which I think that everyone in this room is pretty familiar with targeted marketing. But how are you actually personalizing? Because you don't necessarily see if somebody actually throws something in the recycle bin or if they have more dwell time on that. So how are you actually personalizing? How do you know it's worthwhile?
So we're getting into a little bit of the incubation team we're working on, but the concept is as an app that when you get mail, it has a QR code that can exist that will allow us to tell us, do you like this? Do you not like it? And then it gives us information, a singular signal back, like yes or no for this person. And so we know for that person in the future, they prefer, outdoor magazine versus entrepreneur magazine. So we know right now there is no feedback. So we need to create that loop in Quad because of the enormity of our company with extraordinary scale that allows us to be like, oh, if only 1% of the people respond, it's enough to get insight back to the clients that work with us, which is quite a large quantity of almost 5,000 clients that use Quad. And they're in all different categories, whether it's in-store or marketing and services or our agency services or printing and manufacturing. All the pieces that we do are extraordinarily well trodden. So the point to answer your question is that data, that starting of that information we're going to start to create opportunities for consumers and customers to feed back information to Quad. So it creates an opportunity of a loop of interaction.
So when we think about that loop of interaction, we think about the budgets to be spent on this. This has been something that's always blown me away. Can you share, without sharing the brands, the scope or scale of budgets that people actually allocate to either direct mail or print?
Sure.
Is it in the thousands? Is it in the 100,000s?
For a percentage of budget or percentage
total dollars for a single brand? Like, do you have any examples of a brand that spends a lot? Because I've heard this through the years that some of these budgets are in the hundreds or even billions of dollars.
Some are. I don't know how. This is an interesting question. I don't know how much I can expose in this particular answer, but I will tell you that in my history, there's TV, there's print, there's digital. And now we just stuffed in influencer here in this little middle, sliver of. And then underneath that was what they used to call below the line. And below the line is now this direct marketing, which inevitably is done by marketers reaching out to clients. Ordinarily in the world of marketing, the media agencies tend to take that middle seat of like, we'll tell you which media you should buy. But for us in this bottom part of the funnel, effectively, most marketers come directly to us and we don't go through a media company to do any purchasing. So the percentage of dollars that are spent in print end up being a percentage of that whole architecture, but that's up being, I've seen, and just in my small exposure, up as high as 30% of dollars I've spent just in doing the direct marketing. Now that goes from direct TV, direct print, just all the way to direct mail, to magazine catalog, and then this is sort of take ones, as they call it in the vernacular of the industry. Take one. So the point is it can be quite a lot, but I don't think that from a media mix perspective that there's any way it's a wide range. It's going to vary wildly. Netflix, for example, Uber. I used to do this whole thing about user, the brands that have the most engagement with end customer and user centricity. They almost do no. Macy's, for example, hammers you with their the parade and the fireworks, right? So that's a way upper funnel concept. They're not saying come into our store, it's just like Macy's. It's a Thanksgiving Day parade, yay. Versus Uber, where there's no marketing for Uber. It's, hey, glad you get here, why are you using Uber? What's that called? Oh, well, take Uber. Oh, and then suddenly you download the app and you're using it. And then they work on keeping you because they keep loyalty as a dollar for the next couple of months. So there's this the top of the funnel efforts, which are the largest brands in the world. And the newer brands are much more focused on the back of the funnel, which is loyalty and retention. So you look at that kind of that model and you think, where are the best brands going to win? The truth is, and for our benefit, Quad lives as a vertical along that, whether they top of the funnel or the loyalty and retention. Quads, of course, has to communicate. But I do believe that the brands that we're going to see in the future are going to be much more focused on loyalty and retention than they're going to be about top of the funnel
Well, I have one or two more questions, but I want to see if anyone in the crowd has a question. We've got
some very wonderful looking people here that all are inquisitive with their faces.
So we've got a master class from a CMO, and that's pretty rare. And I bet there are some aspiring CMOs, and probably some people who work with and aspire to talk to CMOs. So any questions? Because I do have a couple of questions on that. My specific question for you is going to be, you've got, so my specific question is going to be, you've just taken this new role. How many days ago?
It's 17, no, it's 7 months.
7 months. So in your first kind of, let's call it, in your next 3 months, in your first 2 years, what are the 3 really actionable things that you need to get done as a chief marketing officer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love this question. So when you first started as a CMO, this is my first full real thing. That's a public company. It's a massive responsibility. When you come in the door, and even worse during the pandemic, you're like, I don't even know where, like, it was 3 months before I knew where the bathrooms were. Like, dude. But anyway, so the first thing you try to figure out, what is the singular brand story that this company needs to own? I'm a big sort of narrative guy. So I started off with that physical process first. And then at a large company like Quad, it's 20,000 people, I'm used to just sort of making decisions. We're just going to do this because I was the person. But in the larger company, it's a lot about gaining, does everyone agree with this? So I have a lot of relationship building. So first is the narrative, the second is on relationship building, the third is, okay, what's our plan for like a kind of what's our evolution going to be to sort of help move the company forward? And those things come out of, from my perspective, bringing in the best and smartest people that I can possibly consider and convince them, by the way, to come work for a company that isn't necessarily in that that Apple, Amazon, Google infrastructure. It's a company that needs to evolve. And people who like to work at those kinds of companies are much more, you have to come to work every day, I'm going to do this because it's hard. I prefer to work at companies that have to do an effort versus like, let me just sort of shepherd this wonderful brand to its next moderate level plane. I'm talking about moving a company substantially. So I get the most brilliant people who are better at their job than mine. So my only job this year is nailing the narrative, which we have done, working on this concept of a marketing experience company, taking us from what we were basically a marketing solution provider, which is it's accurate, but a marketing experience company allows us to have what I call the Quad full smile of all the things that we can offer. Any type of experience that client is looking to have with us, we can actually do successfully for them, whether it's a marketing idea or an audience idea or a data idea or a physical production thing that they need, we have that solution for them. So that narrative marketing experience is the second major sort of plank to say, like, now when I'm on stage, I say, wow, a marketing experience company. You're like, that sounds kind of interesting. What is a marketing experience company exactly? Versus a marketing solutions provider, which is like, oh yeah, that's a company that does stuff for us too. I want you to lean in with that, like, oh, what exactly does that mean? And then the last piece, like I mentioned, the talent piece, is endlessly looking for brilliant people. So I have, a tremendous amount of support from the Grabowskis. Joel, my boss, is the CEO, fabulous, wonderfully inspiring CEO, and has given me sort of just go get it. And so I love that that support that's coming, but also the kind of the job to go figure out how quad can go into the future. So that first year for me is all about talent and about knowing our story and being able to sort of train other people on the story. And then this is, for the record, my first time on stage in front of people talking about it. So it's I'm workshopping it, guys. So how that is.
Well, I think that you workshopped it pretty darn well. Look, this is a 45-year-old company that's going through a
50, just 50 now. 45 years of I'm sorry, now it's just 50 years old.
No worries, 50-year-old company going through a massive Netflix-like transition where you're going after the best talents in the industry you can to really take this journey, adopt a vision, and go, it's a movement that you're creating. And I think that's a fantastic thing to hear, how a company can reinvent itself and take an older technology and really bring it into the future of personalization and keeping an eye on things like sustainability and personalization.
So
So
wonderful wrap up. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Josh, thank you so much for being here with all of us.
Thank you, everybody.